Welcome to Comics Bazaar, the channel of comics commentary and arcana. This video features Ghost Rider number 11, cover dated March 1991. The cover is by Larry Stroman. He is the guest penciler of the Inside Story 2, but inked by Mark Texeira. Features Ghost Rider there front and center, as you'd rather expect. But the cover itself is a little difficult to read, and the coloring isn't helping too much, because what is going on with Ghost Rider? Well, if you pay attention, you can see that his right arm is wrapped around here with these demonic appendages with toothy mouths that are striking out at him. And this is a scene from the Inside Story. Also, you can make out there's his bike, but who is riding it? So that is a little mystery too. And over here on the left-hand side of the cover, we've got a mysterious figure, mostly in open silhouette. So who could that be? So the cover itself is really interesting looking, but aspects of it don't read too clearly, unfortunately. Let's open this one up to the splash page, and here we go. So this is much more clear and also extremely skillful by Larry Stroman, where he has got Nightmare on one particular plane and Danny Ketch there on another plane. So the tilting of the two figures towards each other communicates a sense of spatial discombobulation, which is appropriate enough for Nightmare's realm. So the title of the story is Through a Nightmare Revealed. So there's going to be some kind of revelation in this issue. Let's take a look at the cover caption in that regard. Hex, Lies, and Inner Escape. That is a play, of course, and an allusion to a film of the era, Sex, Lies, and Videotape. But the Inner Escape part and Lies is interesting as it pertains to the revelations of this particular issue, because, of course, there's a long-standing mystery concerning the exact identity of the Ghost Rider. And we learn a little bit more, a tiny little bit more in this particular issue. Really like the way that Larry Stroman has drawn that horse. Animals are difficult to draw, horses in particular. That's really, really well done. And the rest of the creator credits here. Howard Mackie as ever writer, Larry Stroman penciler, Mark Texeira inker, Janice Chang on the letters, and Gregory Wright rounds out the creative team on colors. So Nightmare says to Danny, "Welcome to your nightmare, Danny." And Danny is baffled, confused. "Who are you? Where am I?" So let's turn the page. Get right into this 22-page story. So Nightmare says, "I'm the master of this dimension, and in time others as well. For while some from your dimension have sought to stop me, Nightmare rules the dimension of dreams." So it's around about this time too that over at DC and the Vertigo imprint, Neil Gaiman's Sandman comic launches, and it's interesting to consider the similarities and differences between Marvel's Nightmare character and Gaiman's Sandman, because there is some overlap. Even visually here in the way that Stroman is drawing Nightmare, particularly this particular panel. So Danny runs away from Nightmare, and he says to him that he's not really interested in him. It's his demonic counterpart that he's seeking. "Where is the Ghost Rider?" he asks. "Where is Zarathos?" So of course this is part of the mystery of the Ghost Rider's identity. The old or former Ghost Rider was a demon, Zarathos, and Johnny Blaze made a deal with Mephisto, and Zarathos took possession of him. So that was the old Ghost Rider. But what is the story? What is the full and complete origin story for the Danny Ketch Ghost Rider? That's what we're all wondering about as readers. So Danny here slides down this particular surface, and he sees in front of him his sister levitating. But of course it's a ruse by Nightmare to get his attention. "Sorry about the deception, Danny," he says, "but we do need to talk. And since I'm in total control here, you've no choice but to listen. unless you really do not wish to learn the truth about the Ghost Rider. And then the phone starts ringing here. So this is a funny little bit where Nightmare says, "Oh, I do hate when this happens. We will talk later, Daniel." So yeah, the mystery will continue. I really like the way that Larry Stroman has rendered the other dimensional features of Nightmare's realm, and he's drawing, I think, on inspiration from the way that Steve Ditko, would draw such interdimensional spaces. So Danny wakes up from the dream / nightmare. His alarm clock is ringing there, and you can see here the combination of Stroman's pencils, so the Stroman tropes and anatomy, but with the Mark Texeira rendering. So you're getting an interesting combination between penciler and inker in respect of the aesthetic and style on these pages. And I think that Texeira is working well with Stroman's pencils. So, and this is all, of course, in advance of later in the year, Larry Stroman getting the X Factor gig, starting with issue 71 of that title, and pairing up with Peter David for a well-remembered and popular run of just about a year on that particular title. So the work he's doing on the likes of this is getting him the notice and attention of Bob Harris over in the X offices. Anyway, Danny's up and he is off to pick up and drop his girlfriend off at the police academy for her first day there. So his mother waves him off. Let's turn the page. And shortly he's there with Stacy. This is a really nice image of him kissing her there. And basically the conversation is about his changed look. You can't really see it in the art where she's saying to him that he's got a George Michael beard, so he's got stubble there, but it's not really rendered in the artwork. It seems to me too that maybe Stroman was looking at some photo reference for that shot of side profile shot of Danny. It looks to me as if there might be a spot of photo reference going on, but it's really well done. And Stacy there wondering about her boyfriend as he rides off. What's happening to him? She thinks to herself, and that is a question that repeats throughout this particular issue. Danny asks it in respect of himself. So here he arrives at this yard in Brooklyn, and he thinks to himself, this is the place if I'm going to get any leads on Zodiac. So he's pursuing Zodiac. It'll be through someone here, and I know who that someone should be. So he asks this little kid, and the kid points him to Stig. So in the last issue, Stig had a run-in with Ghost Rider and was subject to the penance there, and he's a wreck of a man now subsequent to that encounter. So Danny says to him, I'm not going to hurt you, I just want to talk. And Stig replies, I said I don't know nothing, please leave me alone. And Danny says, I heard you knew plenty last week. You told a friend of mine where he could find Zodiac. So the man is denying any knowledge. What are you talking about? You know the Ghost Rider? He turns around. Leave me alone, don't hurt me. So he goes into a fetal position on the ground and overcomes one of his compatriots. What are you doing to my man Stig, he asks. He used to be a big man in the yard, and after the man wastes him, I'm going to take his place, so take off. This is a really interesting panel here. Really interesting stuff from Stroman, where you've got this tight close-up on the back of the head of this guy. So you see here his ear, and yeah, that acute angle on the side of his face and just the nose sticking out there. And then you can see the degree to which Danny's getting in his face as well. There's something about the drawing here. It just reminds me a little bit of Todd McFarlane and or Michael Golden, but I really like the composition. I really like the idea that Stroman has come up with. It gives you a sense of Danny getting in the face of this guy, and it's an interesting angle and perspective where we're seeing the big back of his ear here. I really like it. I think it's striking. So Danny shouts at him, listen, you see your man Stig, the same thing can happen to you or worse. Who's your supplier? Where do I find him? So the guy denies any knowledge and begs Danny not to hurt him. Then Danny turns around and Stig is gone. What's happening to me? He asks. So like I said, that is a repeat of Stacy's question. So what is going on is that Danny's coming around to the Ghost Rider and the Ghost Rider's mission, and there is a change then from the timid person he was, the frightened, timid boy he was in issue number 1. So he definitely is having a character transformation. And then the scene switches to elsewhere in the Midwest. I like the layouts here, the horizontal panel layouts. This is a great establishing shot of the outside of this diner. And inside we have 2 bully boys who are threatening a guy at the bar. You'd best be polite and answer his question. I'm going to stick your head up here. And then the diner owner says, "Come on, Lloyd, I don't want you busting up the place again." And one of them says, these twins, "Come on, city boy, we're going to do our buddy Rufus a favor and take this outside." And then the man pulls a double-barrel shotgun on them, sawed-off shotgun, and a knife as well. "I'm going to finish my beer and then leave here quietly," he says. "I'm heading east and I'm in a hurry and I don't have time to clean your blood off my boots. What do you say?" So a great little scene there. Of course, readers in the know would recognize this character as Johnny Blaze, and he's making his way to New York in order to find out about the new appearances of the Ghost Rider, who he thinks is Zarathos. So later back in Brooklyn, Danny sat down in an abandoned yard with the bike there, and he's thinking to himself, he's ruminating on how he's changed as a person. "I can't believe I lost my temper like that. I can't believe that I'm sitting here in an alley among the garbage. I can't believe that I'm waiting for Zodiac to show up. I'm no hero. What's happening?" But then he sees a stretched limousine pull up, and in the back there's a figure in silhouette, and he gets out of the limousine and it's none other than Zodiac smoking a fat cigar. So he's there to see Stig because he wants Stig to give him the location of Ghost Rider, and he tells his men there to clear out the yard. We don't want any witnesses. So Danny sees the gas cap glowing on the motorbike, and that is the sign that it's time for a transformation into the Ghost Rider. But just as it happens, and I really like the sequencing here of the panels, there is a strange occurrence, and it is these green energy signals of a transport to, let's turn the page, Nightmare's dimension. And just look at this. What a fantastic double page spread this is. This is tremendous work. Like, Larry Stroman, definitely when he drew this, was pleased with himself, but also showing his editor what he could do, and maybe making a play for it being put on a title such as would happen later on with X Factor. But this is really great work. The combination of the pencils, the inks, Gregory Wright's colors, excellent stuff. Really, really great. And of course, the big surprise is to see the Ghost Rider separated from Danny Ketch, his human host, and the bicycle the motorbike in between them. So also I really like the pose on Nightmare there. It reminds me of Rodin's The Thinker, and he's got a bit to say to the two guys. He says, "You do ask the same question over and over again, Daniel. Well, that did take a bit of work. Had to get you at the moment of the transformation, the time when you were near the dimension of dreams." So that's interesting as well, that every time the transformation occurs, somehow or other, in the liminal space of transformation, it puts Danny and Ghost Rider near the dimension of dreams, the dimension of fantasy, the unconscious. Interesting. And Nightmare continues and says, "Split-second timing and all, but as you can see, well worth the effort. Welcome back, Zarathos," he says to the Ghost Rider. Let's turn the page. So Danny's incredulous. This has got to be another dream, but how? And Nightmare says, "Dreams are what I wish them to be, my dear boy. As I've told you, I am Nightmare, master of the dream dimension. That which I desire to be real is real. Your insignificant mind would hardly be able to grasp the nature of my occult majesty, and you are of very little use to me, Daniel. I'm only interested in how you can help me release him. Now, can we get to the business at hand? So his interest is with Ghost Rider, who he thinks is Zarathos. Look at that three-quarter profile there of Nightmare. It's very, very reminiscent of Neil Gaiman's Morpheus. Got to be deliberate on Stroman's part, I would say. Like this tight three-quarter profile close-up on Ghost Rider's eyes as he responds, I'm the spirit of vengeance. And Nightmare says to him, this is interesting stuff as well. From Stroman, we've got these spheres and this flying dragon demon and this weird little fish-looking thing as well. And this crab creature as well, wrapped around a bubble. Interesting stuff going on in the background from Stroman, who tends to have a little bit of fun with his backgrounds. Yes, I know all that, says Nightmare. You and young Daniel seem to share a tendency towards repetition. And you do have the most annoying habit of getting amnesia. I thought I'd lost you after our last meeting, but recent, we'll see the reference for that. It's to Ghost Rider Volume 1, issues 80 and 81. So from a good decade back. But recently, you've again begun to inhabit the nightmares of so many people and but I'm getting ahead of myself, aren't I? I guess I'll have to explain your life to you all over again. I'll try and make it brief, Zarathos. Really like that drawing of the hand there. It looks to me like probably Larry Stroman sometimes you might use his own hand as a reference. That was something Neil Adams used to do as well. And when he was drawing hands, he'd use his own hands as a reference for the drawing. Let's see here. So we get a little potted story about Zarathos, the demon that Nightmare thinks is the Ghost Rider, is the new Ghost Rider. In days past, you were worshipped as a god, a devourer of souls. Your appetite was unquenchable. Amongst demons, you were almost without equal. I did say almost. Your voracious hunger for human souls brought the attention and the wrath of Mephisto. A legendary battle ensued, but alas, you were defeated. The living flame that was the very essence of your soul was his to play with for ages. He amused himself by placing it in a variety of human hosts. Then along came Johnny Blaze. He made a deal with Mephisto, Prince of the Liars, the foolish mortal, and thus was born the Ghost Rider. So just right here, he amused himself by placing it in a variety of human hosts. Right there, you could have a new Marvel series. Like you could have the demon Zarathos placed in a variety of human souls from the Bronze Age to the present, to the 20th century. That would be interesting. And it's the kind of thing that Todd McFarlane did with Spawn, where there was spawns from various different historical periods, such as medieval Spawn, for instance. So you see it just here in, what would I say, like in OVO. Like there's a seed, a germ of an idea there that could have led to another comic series, which I personally would find interesting. And there's always that possibility. For years, you rode on your motorcycle, says Nightmare, created of the very hellfire used to fry the souls of those you battled. That's a great shot there by Stroman of a skull and Ghost Rider, the Johnny Blaze, Zarathos Ghost Rider riding out of the mouth. Really, really well done. The nightmares you caused for your victims brought you to my attention. You knew nothing of your past, nothing of your former glory, until I restored your memory and helped you towards your eventual separation from Blaze. So that's the reference to the end of Ghost Rider Volume 1, issues 80 and 81. Nightmare continues, but my gift to you was for naught. Your fiery temper won out, and you were trapped in a soul crystal, apparently doomed to fight your archenemy, Centurius, for all time. But somehow, fortune has returned you to me, Zarathos. Once again, you can be unleashed upon the earth to fry souls and send more to the world of Nightmare. I like that phraseology, fry souls, up there as well. It works. It's kind of evocative. I like it. These memories, so the Ghost Riders thinking mean nothing to me, he says. I've no idea of this which you speak. And if your motives are what you say they are, then you must pay the price for your torture of the innocent. And so Nightmare here is taken aback. What? He yells. I'm the spirit of vengeance, says Ghost Rider. He says that a lot. I will not be a servant to you or anyone else when innocent blood is spilled. But Nightmare's had enough silence, he says, and he blasts him with his occult power. And here we go. This gives us our image for the cover. Really like the decision by Stroman to put it in 2 panels. And you really get a sense of this swarm of demons that are pouring down towards Danny and the Ghost Rider there. And I love the decision by Gregory Wright to leave this space around Danny and Ghost Rider white, so you get a sense of negative space. And then they're just streaming down right on top of the Ghost Rider. And Nightmare says all the while, "Fool, you cannot harm me in this dimension. Here I reign supreme. As for your mission, vengeance I can understand, but innocent blood, fool. I offered you a partnership from which we could both prosper. Now I offer you only," let's turn the page, "death." So here he is. He's grabbed by those nightmare demons. This is our cover image. It gives us our cover image. And Nightmare continues, "Here, even you can die, Ghost Rider." So that's intriguing. How could that be? What will happen to you, to your mission of vengeance then? Innocence you speak of? I am privy to the collective unconscious of humanity, and I tell you, a truly innocent person does not exist. This is really interesting. So this is Harold Mackie drawing on the idea of Carl Jung's, that everyone is possessed of a share of the collective unconscious, which is the encoding of the totality of human experience in the world. So over, millions of years for the organisms that developed into human beings, and for 100,000 years for as long as anatomically modern humans have been around on the earth. So it's the expectation of mother, father, it's the expectation of enemy, friend, and so on and so forth. But also there's the shadow. So there's ego and shadow, and the shadow is, a lot of it is just unrealized potential, but some of it is evil, of course, wickedness, savagery, all of the vices of pride, envy, and so on and so forth. And that's what Nightmare is talking about. So that's interesting. It's interesting looking at this from the vantage point now of 2025 versus 1990, and seeing the kind of thought world that Mackie is drawing on for this new version of the Ghost Rider, and for his characterization of Nightmare. And I think it's really interesting in retrospect. So he's determined that a truly innocent person does not exist, and now neither will you. But Danny rides to the rescue of Ghost Rider, and he says to him, he thinks to himself, it is as though for the first time I really know that the force behind Ghost Rider is one of good, even if neither of us knows where it comes from. So, my thinking is, with the Ghost Rider being the spirit of vengeance, and the Ghost Rider, this iteration, being not of demonic origin, that he may be what is called in Latin flagellum Dei, the scourge of God. So he may be a minion, functionary of God. That at least is a conjecture that's possible at this particular point in the development of the story. So Nightmare says there's nowhere to escape to. You're too weak, Daniel, and you, Zarathos, or whoever you are, don't have any strength left. So Ghost Rider says he's right. Alone we can do nothing but run until we're caught. And Danny replies to him, alone, nothing, but what about together? Somehow we or you seemed much stronger before when we were united. I thought you were invincible. Why don't we try and merge again, here, now? Ghost Rider says it would have to be a complete union, Daniel. If there is any doubt in your mind, he will be able to separate us again. And you are right, without the union, I am weaker. So they grasp hands, let's do it. The merging takes place, and Ghost Rider's whole. I'm whole once again, Nightmare, he says. And while your so-called memories of me do not ring true, there was an element of truth in what you said. I am much more powerful than I could have imagined, and while the extent of these powers is as yet unknown to me, you will feel a small part of them now. So Nightmare, though, remains confident. Oh, please, you must know that your penance stare cannot work on me. Ghost Rider rides away. Yes, this is true. My vengeance with you can only be my escape. So the Ghost Rider is able to escape Nightmare's dimension and arrives back in the yard where Zodiac is. That's a really great shot of him riding out of the Nightmare dimension and landing on the back wheel there. Really, really cool stuff from Stroman. And then Ghost Rider says, I still do not know any more about myself. Well, you see, that's the thing. We're getting tiny pieces of fresh information regarding this new version of the Ghost Rider. And I would say that we can pretty confidently conclude at this point that Zarathos is not at all involved in this new version of the Ghost Rider. That's as much as we've gotten from this issue, really. And also the fact that Ghost Rider is near invincible when Danny willingly joins the merger of Ghost Rider's spirit and his own. And then he's back to his prime mission focus, Zodiac. He exclaims, now you'll feel my penance stare. But there's a problem. Really like the way that he's kind of skidded into a mystic barrier, preventing him from his goal. Is this another trick of Nightmare's? And someone off panel with the collar of a cape there in silhouette says, no, Zarathos. So someone else thinks he's Zarathos, not Nightmare. It is a spell of containment conjured up by, well, who's a conjurer from the Marvel Universe that we're all familiar with a cape with a long collar on it? Turn the page. It's Doctor Strange, of course. Doctor Strange, Sorcerer Supreme of Earth. So it was only time before Ghost Rider, a creature of occult and mystic origin, would face off against Doctor Strange. And so the question now is what are we going to learn in the next issue? Doctor Strange thinks that Ghost Rider is Zarathos, but we're of the opinion now that he isn't. So will there be fresh information emerging in the next issue? Next issue, Doctor Strange, Zodiac, and more of the mysterious stranger on the motorcycle who wants to kill Ghost Rider. But we know who that is. It's Johnny Blaze. So one page of letters there. And there you go. I do hope that you enjoyed this review and commentary on Ghost Rider number 11 with the guest pencils by Larry Stroman. I think it's a really well drawn issue. I think it's nicely paced as well in respect of the story. Let me know your thoughts on this one in the comments section. If you enjoyed my review and commentary, please like and share the video. It really does help the channel. And if you haven't done so already, subscribe to the channel and stay tuned for more content like this.